Good morning, everyone. Kris here with Inspired Energy, and joining me this morning, Hartwell. Good morning, Hartwell.
Good morning, Kris. Good morning, everyone.
So we're continuing our journey with the lines of the I Ching in human design. And today we're doing line 5. So what can you tell us about line 5? What is the general take on it?
Well, to continue with our house metaphor, the fifth line is the windows of the second story of the house with the drapes kind of pulled. So the fifth line person is kind of peeking out, not sure if it wants to be noticed or not. And the people on the street are saying, "What's going on up there? There's something interesting going on up there." So there's a sense of projecting upon that fifth line. There's an element of mystery to it. There's an element of seduction to it. And if you're one of the main profiles, 3-5 or 5-1, and then there's one that's a little less common, the 5-2, then it's going to be especially important for you to think about the way that the 5 works in your life. So the 5 is, in human design, it's called the heretic. It's the heretical line. In business language, we may call it the messenger or the fixer. And it is a very transpersonal line in the way it operates. So what does that mean? It means that it has broader implications for society. The 5-1 can be, in times of crisis, the 5 gets projected upon. And other people see the 5 line as being able to save or fix or rescue or, that kind of energy. So it's kind of a natural leading and a natural teaching kind of energy, especially in times of crisis. So what happens is that the fifth line attracts projections from others. And the projection is automatically positive, which you could call a good thing. There's this projection that the fifth line has something that can save you or help you. And so the fifth line is very seldom seen for who they are because they attract this automatic projection. So you don't really see who they are. For the fifth line person, there's a sense of, okay, great, this person is projecting onto me. But the fifth line person is not equipped to fulfill everybody's expectations.
Well, nobody is.
No, nobody is, but other people don't get projected upon either. Okay, not in the same way. I mean, we can talk about. I mean, we're all familiar with the idea of projection. It's a very common concept in psychology and in New Age circles, and anybody who's self-aware is very aware of projection. But the extent to which it happens is far more with the fifth line. So the thing is, if the fifth line is meant to be influential, it's meant to be influential, but only for the people that are proper for it. So the fifth line, the person with the fifth line has to be aware of what it can fulfill and what it cannot fulfill. Because it's not meant to answer everybody's projections. Okay, but when it is meant to fulfill it, that's great. The fifth line does its best to fulfill that, and then off you go. So the fifth line is kind of meant to be that messenger or fixer who comes in, does their job, offers their out-of-the-box solution, then steps away. The stranger of consequence. So, okay, The fifth gets projected upon. Oh, I can answer that projection. That projection is answered. Okay, I'm going to go away and do my own thing. Job done. That's kind
Mm-hmm.
of the fifth line. But fifth lines, they often can be a little bit suspicious or paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being that there will be a people who have projected upon them in their life, and they've disappointed that projection. And so then they get where initially that projection was positive, it turns negative. And that's why, the heretic can end up getting burnt at the stake if it doesn't fulfill people's desires or expectations that they be the savior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, um, so it is healthy for a fifth line to be suspicious or wary, perhaps, of the projections of other people have, and also not overexpose themselves, because overexposure, familiarity breeds contempt. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how the five operates. And they can be good at marketing. They can be influential. Reputation is important. That's why it's important not to, in a sense, try to fulfill projections that are not the relevant ones for that any particular 3-5 or 5-1.
Mm-hmm.
One of the suggestions in human design is the five. The five is meant to be practical, because when they are asked for solutions, they need to come up with something practical. So the fifth is oriented towards what works.
Mm-hmm.
What works. And so any 3-5 or 5-1 that is properly living their profile, their role, is going to be very, I want to deliver what's practical, what will work.
So they're not living in fantasy land. They're delivering reality, what's true, what people can use, right? Common sense kind of things. I mean, like that
Well,
people can actually pick up and implement, right?
implementable,
Mm-hmm.
yes. I'm a 5-1, and what I do is not. A lot of people would say, well, what you do isn't practical. I mean, what's the value of astrology?
Mm-hmm.
What's the value of human design? What's the value of the tarot? A lot of people would not find that, practical.
Mm-hmm.
But in relationship to the things that I study, I'm looking for what works.
But I think, again, you're talking about demographics because it works for those people who are your demographic. For those people who are not your demographic, of course, it's not going to, seem practical to them, right?
Yeah,
It's going to seem like woohoo or,
right.
whatever you want to
Well,
call it. But
certainly. But
yeah.
say within the group of people who are interested in astrology, there
Mm-hmm.
are things within astrology I consider not worth passing on because I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they're practical. So
Right.
I have this perception of what works in
Mm-hmm.
the realm of astrology,
Mm-hmm.
and in the realm of tarot, and in the realm
Mm-hmm.
of human design, and what does not work. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
interested in what, in my perception anyway, is what works, what will have an impact for people, what will be useful for people.
Mm-hmm.
So they do like to kind of solve problems and find solution. Um, the fifth line aspires to be attractive, aspires to be attract the right attention. Um, in terms of what they perceive and remember, they remember the times when it worked.
Mm-hmm.
When they had something to offer and it was valued, and when it actually helped the person that called upon them for some sort of leadership or advice or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
There is a seductive energy to the five because it attracts people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that the element of connection or the relationship connection can revolve around seducer seduced kind of energy. What brings security to the five is the idea of having something to distribute, having something to give, and hoarding,
Mm-hmm.
holding on to that for.
Mm-hmm.
The emotional approach is sort of selfishness versus selflessness.
Mm-hmm.
And the instinctual approach to situations is discipline or rebellion. So it's kind of one or the other. They're kind of, these words are, the words for each of the lines is very particular
Mm-hmm.
because the dynamic of the energy works within that context.
Mm-hmm. But you
That makes
see that
sense?
pendulum swing again, like just like we saw in all the other lines where there's, you know, this shadow side, but then you can swing to the other side, and then you constantly feel like you're going back and forth until you reach that balance point, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know if you're laughing right now when you see rebellion because I don't know. Do you see me as rebellious?
Defiant.
um, yeah, so
I think
yeah,
it depends on the context, right? You know, yeah, there are times, but yeah, there's other times not. So it's like that pendulum swing, like I said, right? It really swings back and forth. But I think, like all of us have these energies anyways, like you said. So I'm sure at any point in time, any of us can be that, but it may be more pronounced in somebody who has a lot of line fives or has it in
right.
their profile, like you said. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, Chris, because if you think this is something for all of our listeners to realize is that there is one of the teachings of human design is that your profile represents your public role. So I'm a 5-1, for instance. You are a 1-3. And then that means that our sun and earths were in lines 1 and 3 for you and 5 and 1 for me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there's all those other activations that are in different lines. They may be in 5, they may be in 3, they may be in 2 or 6 or 4. However, if you get deep into the study of human design and look at the lines, because all the lines, if you take the 6 lines of any one particular hexagram, there's a different theme there. And we've been exploring those themes.
Mm-hmm.
So in your case, for instance, you could look at all the first and third lines for any expression in your chart, and there'll be relevance there to you because your overall profile is a 1-3.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I only have three fifth line activations, I can
Mm-hmm.
look at every one of my activations and look at the first line and look at the fifth line as an overall sense of how I'm expressing. There's a certain relevance to that.
Yeah, and I think there's also the balance. So even though you're a 5-1 and I'm a 1-3, you can have more ones than threes or more fives than ones or vice versa. And I'm sure that would also sway, because we're all unique, right? So then that adds to that flavor that you talk about, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could look at that.
Mm-hmm.
We could look and see, okay, you have only one fifth line,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in what's called the gate of ambition, or in Gieski's language, the energy of aspiration. It's about being very ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you have any associations or thoughts that come up when you think, oh, I have that in the fifth line? Interesting.
Um, I don't know really. Like I don't feel I think it's kind of um more about perfectionism for me. So always trying to, you know, make sure that everything is done right. Because of course, I'm always looking at all the variables, like, oh, what can go wrong, and then trying to head them off at the pass before
Hmm.
before that happens. So that would probably be something that I would look at for that particular situation.
Do
Um,
you think other people see you as ambitious? Maybe not now, maybe in the past.
I don't think so.
Hmm.
It's not my experience. My experience is more like people tended to, it's more like the motherly energy that I was always getting. Like the
Hmm.
fixer part. Just go see Chris, she'll fix it. She'll take care of it. That would be my
Hmm.
experience of that expression. Yeah.
Right. So people
Especially for
projected upon you that you were somebody who could fix things.
yeah.
Hmm.
You'll take care of it. Or, mom will kiss it and make it better. Or, mom will give us some money and take care of that. Or, like that was my experience of that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, one aspect of the mother energy that we don't often think about is that mothers take charge. So,
Hmm.
in a sense, a mother energy is in some ways a leadership energy.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's interesting.
But I don't think they see it as ambitious. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like ladder climbing to try and reach success or be a successful person at something. I don't think it's like that. I think it's more like I said, like the mother energy, the fixer, like when you're talking about that sort of thing.
hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That's my experience, anyways.
Right. Mom will save you.
Hmm.
Mom will
Yep.
save you. Mom will take charge.
Yep.
Um, yeah.
Mother knows best, kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, of course, my sun and earth are in the fifth line, and I have only one other activation in the fifth line, which is,
Hmm.
interestingly, it's the gate of friendship, which is related to tribal energy.
Hmm.
Um, I don't always, I mean, here's where it gets subtle, right? Because human
Hmm.
design says your profile is how you show up in the world.
Hmm.
So, I don't see myself as a savior. I don't see myself as, I don't always see myself as influential. And yet, I remember talking to somebody from high school, and I was a bookworm. I was a band nerd. I was not very outgoing. I certainly wasn't popular. I may have been a little bit well known because I was usually one of the top, had the top marks in my grade.
Hmm.
But to me, I was invisible.
Hmm.
And yet, a couple of times I got this, oh, everybody in the school knows who you are. It's like,
Hmm.
what? Why would they know who I am?
Yeah.
Because I'm nothing particularly remarkable in my own mind.
Yeah.
But that could have been evidence for that energy of the fifth line somehow making me more visible in people's consciousness, even though
Mhm.
they weren't engaging with me.
But I think again, that's when you set yourself apart as an expert in something. So people were recognizing you as that person who attained good grades. So everybody knew who the person with good grades was, for example. Just like
Mm,
everybody knows that if they want to know anything about astrology or human design, they go to Hartwell, right? Like it's like that, where they know that you're an expert in that particular field. So then you become known, and then you become that wise person that everybody goes to, that has the
yeah.
wisdom, and that they seek you out for that, right? That's why you become
And
known.
right. I mean, and then, people don't really know me. They don't know me as a person
Hmm.
because, they might come and see me once,
Hmm.
and then, okay, they got what they needed and away they go.
But
So it's
then,
not like I'm the five isn't the one that is cozy with everybody. That's more the four
no, but
or
that's
the
the
six.
messenger. So when they
Yeah.
come to see you, you're delivering the message that they need to hear, and then they
Yeah.
go off on their journey. So it's almost like an initiation. Okay, I've given you the information, now you go run with it, kind of thing,
Hmm.
is kind of the
Hmm.
role that you play, right? Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the fifth line. Um,
So, is there anything else you want to tell us about the fifth line before we sign off today?
No, I think we're done with the fifth line, and now we get to talk about the sixth. There's a lot to talk about with the sixth, the role model line, which is the final line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't know how to wrap that up.
Well,
It's like,
that's all right.
what can I say to send them all off on the road here?
Yeah, exactly. But what we can do is just say, okay, well, we've delivered the message, so you can go out and run with that.
Yeah.
But what I did want to mention is that we have a couple of people here, you being one of them, and Rin, who are going to be doing group readings called the Brood of Dragons, and for people to watch for that. So this is a unique thing where you can take a group of friends or people that you work with, that you hang out with, and figure out what the group dynamics are. And it's a reading where they're going to say, okay, what does that mean? What role do you play within the group? And those sorts of things. So maybe, yeah. Are you looking forward to that?
It's a super fun thing to consider, because every time we have a group, the group has an energy that is made up of each member, but there are things that you get from the group, and there are things you contribute, the roles that you play. And so to think about that, really, I think it brings back the awareness that gathering together in community can be a very sacred thing, an incredibly nourishing thing. I mean, we don't have to think about the sacred necessarily, but nourishing, supportive, expansive, something that augments you and has your life be better. So yeah, we're going to explore that for the groups that come in to see us when we do that.
Yeah. So look forward to that, guys. And with that, we'll look forward to line 6 next week. We'll say goodbye. God bless. Signing off, and have a wonderful day.